Lesson 11. I'm in love with a wonderful girl. She's 13 years old, she lives in El Paso, Texas, and her name is Paige Pipkin. In an age of glamour girls and disco queens, Miss Pipkin has the rarest of qualities. She can spell. Last week, Miss Pipkin correctly spelled the word sarcophagus and thus won the 54th National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. She triumphed over a young man who misspelled the word Philippic, and thus she finished first in the competition. The idea of a National Spelling Bee seems somehow out of date, but I think it's great. If you deal with the written word and you receive a lot of mail, then you know that people simply can't spell anymore. It is a skill that is disappearing in America. People apparently feel that they don't need to know how to do it, or that it is too hard to bother with. When I go through the mail each day, I am constantly dismayed by this trend. It is getting to the point where a letter with no misspelled words is the exception. The problem goes across the board. Letters from students, letters from businessmen, letters from people in public life. Even the most prosperous executives have secretaries who can't spell. And, worst of all, I sometimes get letters from teachers, and even their letters have many misspelled words. This may seem like a minor thing, but I don't think it is. If I know that a person can't spell, then I have trouble trusting anything else about him. If he can't even get the spelling of a word right, then why should I put any faith in his version of events or his opinions? Obviously, he is sloppy in his thinking if he can't even take the trouble to make certain of the spelling of the words he uses. I fear I am in a minority here. I don't know if there have been any official studies done on the problem, but just from personal observation, I know that in the last decade, the ability of people to spell has diminished rapidly, and yet you hardly ever hear it discussed. Say what you will about my writing. You may think it's lousy, it may annoy you, or may even make you sick. But believe me on one thing, I am a hell of a speller. Ask any copy editor I've ever worked with. They will tell you. In the 10 years I have been writing a newspaper column, I have misspelled no more than 3 words, and that's an outside estimate. To be truthful, I don't think I have misspelled any. It's not so difficult. All you have to do is look up the words you aren't sure of. Today, for example, before I turn this column into the copy desk, I will look up sarcophagus, which was used in the second paragraph of this writing. A simple enough step. But most people aren't willing to take it. That's the worst thing about the new inability of Americans to spell. If it just had to do with misspelled words, it would be one thing. But it is symbolic of an overall lack of discipline, a readiness not to care, a willingness to be second-rate. I know it may seem like a small thing to you, but it's really not. And it's destined to get worse. In the television age, all print skills are going to suffer, and spelling is going to be the first one to go. People are going to decide that knowing how to spell is an archaic discipline, and they are going to decide they can get along without it. And the worst thing is, they'll be able to if enough people just can't spell. then businesses are going to have to employ them anyway and try to look past this fault. Which takes us back to Paige Pipkin, the 13-year-old spelling champ from El Paso. For some reason, she has grown up believing that she must have enough pride in herself to be a perfect speller. It is difficult to imagine that she will ever fail in any important area of her life. So congratulations to Miss Pipkin for winning the National Spelling Bee. If there were any justice in this world, they would have crowned her Miss America.